We are live, the WrestleManiacs. It is me and G Money once again, unless
What's going on?
I don't know.
TLC S.
I think everybody, like you were saying, everybody kind of fell asleep or something. I don't know.
When Piz said that he's like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I'm like, dude, it's almost over. And then I looked and it was like only halfway through. I'm like, really? I thought it was almost done.
It seemed to me like they, like I know I'd forgot about a couple of the matches on there, and it seemed like they did too, because there was only like an hour left on the show, and then they had to go through what, it was at least 3 matches, right, in that last hour.
Yeah. I forgot about like that Rusev match. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. Which, you know, I don't really understand that. We can talk about that as the show goes along. Like, they already did a thing with Rusev and Swagger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was the point, really?
I'm assuming they probably had Sheamus in mind, but he got hurt, so they're like, oh, what do we do now? You know, and they probably just went back to him. Which was stupid, because what was going to happen? He was just going to lose again? Silly.
Right. I mean, what's going to happen with Swagger now? I mean, where do you go other than just complete jobber, which I'm pretty sure that's what he's going to do. And it's unfortunate because I think that whole program with Rusev, he was more over for that program than anything he's ever done. It seemed like, at least the first program, you know. And then again, I think the crowd wants to get behind him, but they just have no idea what to do with him. And I guess the crowd's reaction doesn't go with what they want to do, as usual.
Yeah.
So
I mean, like I was saying earlier today, is Swagger's the whole USA guy, you know, America this, America that, but he doesn't take the gimmick to that level. Like, he should have the red, white, and blue singlet. Like, it should be his gimmick. And, you know, if he has the flag, if he's got Zeb, whatever, but, you know, when he comes out in just, like, black singlet, it doesn't really define, you know, a gimmick or a character. So he kind of falls kind of bland, I feel like. And that's what I think he's missing. When, you know, he had that big feud with Rusev, they should have let him win because he was so over. I mean, he didn't have to pin him, but, you know, he could have had Rusev retreat, and then that leads to another match, and kept it going instead of just squash after squash. And then it's like, exactly, why are we taking this match seriously now?
yeah, I mean, I understand they're high on Rusev, but sometimes things happen, and you should just go with the flow. I mean, you know, like you said, not a pin, but do something that makes Jack Swagger look like, hey, you know, we've got something for you. But, you know, now, I don't know. It's unfortunate, like I was saying. I mean, I'm not the biggest Jack Swagger fan, but I think that they had something with the guy, like so many other guys they had something with, you know, and now they have nothing.
Yep.
Just like they bring in all these new guys, and almost immediately you don't give a shit about them because they have nothing for them to do. You know?
And that's scary for, you know, when NXT puts on these great shows with the talent they have, and then when those guys get promoted, it's almost like they get demoted. I feel like, you know, it's like they leave as big stars and they go to Raw and they become mid-carders, and, you know, a lot of them are going to end up like that. You know, even still, like, look at Bo Dallas. He was like their top heel, and he came up, and you know, they ruined it. I feel like he could have been something more, and they kind of, you know, shut it off before it really got started.
Right. I think with 26 riders or whatever they have, if they're going to bring one of these new guys up, or even if they have a new idea for a bunch of old guys like the New Day, come up with I don't know, at least a 2 or 3 month plan, a program with somebody. Give them a reason to be there, other than, here we are, you know, you're not going to care next week.
Well, I unfortunately, I hear you, because that's going to kick off the pre-show match is New Day, and, you know, I was kind of excited about it during the vignettes. I kind of liked it. You know, I think from day one they did it all wrong. I mean, you don't promote for one day and then bring them out randomly the week before without any build, and then expect them to get this big ovation because it's like they say, oh, next week they're going to finally come on Raw. Then they go to SmackDown. Then they come on Raw. And it just kind of, I feel like it killed it before it got started. And I was still trying to be into it, and I was. And tonight I feel like I'm not into it anymore already.
And something else that I was telling you guys, I think when they debuted or when I first saw them on Raw, the death of any gimmick is baby blue. They put him in baby blue.
Rocky Meyer,
yeah. Dean Douglas.
Oh, I like that. That was unfortunate that didn't work out. You know, I mean, it was no franchise, but it was all right. I mean, it was silly, but for the time, it was good to have him in there. But yeah, I mean, it is. You're right. It didn't.
It's like a curse. It's a bad color. Like you just don't do that. I mean, you could go on. Remember the Body Donnas. There you go. There's another one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just I know it's a weird thing, but watch and see. It's not going to work.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen here either. It's going to be, they're going to end up turning heel. That's the only thing that they can do at this point. Something's going to happen because it's this over-facey New Day is losing interest week by week.
Right, and they do the long, like you were saying, the long build. Like I don't know how many weeks it was. Was it what? At least 5 or 6 weeks worth of vignettes.
Yeah. And it actually was a decent build for what it was. I mean, you know, when it first came out, we were all like, oh, Xavier Woods just got repackaged. And, you know, that's what we thought it was. And then all of a sudden the next week or 2 weeks later, you see Kofi do one, and you're like, oh, wait, this is something else. You know, and then you were kind of waiting for Big E, and it happened. So it kind of was cool. You know, but again, the overly face gimmick like that, like even JBL was kind of mocking it tonight. Like, you know, something's going to be up. Nobody's this happy all the time. And it almost seems true. Like, it's not – the fans were getting into it, but it doesn't seem like legit. Like, how can this work?
Right. I agree. But, yeah, you were talking about the pre-show match, which the pre-show match is usually always like half an hour in it starts. I think this was the same way. Mm-hmm. The pre-show is just fucking pointless, man. Like, other than the one match, which I don't think this match lasted that long. New Day versus Goldust and Stardust is looking just flat out ridiculous. With the green face paint and the green and gold and all that. I guess he's being like festive Stardust or something for Christmas season. I have no clue. It was a decent enough match, but it was like a Raw match. You know, it's something you see on Raw, and you'll probably see the rematch on Raw tomorrow night.
Probably. I felt like there was a lot of botches in it. I mean, mostly I think coming from the New Day, it was kind of sloppy. It almost seemed like they wanted to go out there and have this show-stealing match, and I think they just got all jumbled because I just feel like they didn't mesh well at all with Goldust and Stardust. And, you know, it's really hard to put a lot of blame on Goldust and Stardust because they rarely botch up at all. Yeah, Stardust, I don't know what's going on with that gimmick. The only thing I can say is you can tell Cody loves it. He loves it. He's given that 110%.
He may be the only one.
I know. I don't know what's gonna. I mean, I'm assuming they're doing this to get him over by himself eventually, but I don't know where this goes from here.
Yeah,
which sucks because I like Cody. I mean, so I don't know what this happens with this.
No, it's crazy. I mean, a lot of as talented as he is, he's never really found anything that has worked, you know, well for him. Unfortunately.
To be honest, I actually felt Cody was at his best when he had that like mask on. Remember that mask that he hiding his face and stuff? And he feuded with Randy Orton. I felt like, and he used to put the bags on the audience's head. I feel like that was the best Cody Rhodes that we had. But I mean, do you leave that mask on him forever? I don't know. But I felt like that was the best gimmick, that heel gimmick with the bags on everybody's head.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I think his music was pretty pretty sweet then too.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Anyway, continuing on with the show, I guess the show opened and it started with, I think it was the match I mentioned to you guys in chat that I was kind of looking forward to. I was thinking this could be the show stealer, the Intercontinental title ladder match, Luke Harper versus Dolph Ziggler for the IC title, and they did hype that it was Ziggler's hometown quite a bit, which led me to believe he wasn't going to win the match, but he did actually end up regaining the IC title, and I thought it was a damn good match. It was easily the best match on the show, I feel.
Yeah, I agree with you. It definitely was. It was a good opener. I was, very happy that there was an IC title ladder match because it's been a long time since we've had anything like that before, and it really gave that title, I feel like, a lot more prestige. That those guys were going to work so hard in a ladder match just to regain that title. Gave the title prestige. I think they both went out there and worked. They were trying to prove something tonight, and I feel like they did. They definitely stole the show. I mean, there was blood, from both guys. I mean, you don't see that often. I mean, I don't know if, a lot of it was legit. I don't know if Ziggler bladed. I'm not sure. I mean, I doubt it, but I don't know if they were just trying to, outdo NXT, but it was a great match from both sides.
Yeah, I don't know if they outdid NXT, and we'll talk about the NXT show later on too, because I think that was I think that show opened a lot of eyes backstage. I'd heard that too, and I don't see how it couldn't. But we'll talk about that after this TLCS show. But yeah, I mean, a lot of crazy spots in this match. Luke Harper, I know the one spot where he fell and landed like arm first on the ladder, like that just looked freaking sick, and he had like a welt almost instantly on his arm after that, and was bleeding from his arm, and yeah, I bet that hurt like a motherfucker. Yeah,
they did a lot of crazy stuff. There was a lot of falls with Ziggler that I was like, oh my god, how is he not hurt? Like, I mean, he was twisting in the air. Yeah, that spot with Harper, I think he did a suicide dive and landed on his arm on the ladder. Yeah, it was a great match, man, and I feel like this hopefully is a big opportunity for Dolph to really get his name, back in that main event picture. I mean, from the Survivor Series that they had him go, and now winning back this in this kind of match. I mean, if this doesn't tell you that he's ready for a big time, I'm going to say not main event, but he needs to be climbing that ladder quickly, and I feel like it's being done the right way. I mentioned this when we were chatting earlier. I don't know if you saw it, but the way he's being booked right now is very old school to me. It's very Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, the show he did at Survivor Series, now the IC title. It's only from here, back in the day it would be a Royal Rumble win and a WrestleMania win, but I don't think that's going to happen, but I hope it's putting him right in the right direction for sure.
Freddie, what's going on? We're glad you can join us tonight.
Yeah, I almost fell asleep.
That's what I was telling Garrett before we started. I had to drink a couple of shots of that mocha cold coffee shit, and it's not really working. But
right.
Yeah, we were just talking about the Ziggler Harper match, though. What were your thoughts on that one?
That was the match of the night. Just a great match. A lot of brutality in that match. It's great when you have two guys who can sell for each other the way they do. So it made that match work. And I'm glad Ziggler won. I do think he's below the IC title right now, but I think right now it's a slow push, and I think that's good for him right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I mean, I think everybody's predicting that, Roman Reigns is going to win that Rumble match, and I think it's awful if they actually have Reigns versus Lesnar for the belt at Mania, because it's too freaking predictable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I hope they don't do that. But
You know,
It gives hope if Ziggler's being pushed like this that maybe they're thinking about just throwing a curveball.
it wouldn't surprise me if Cena beats Lesnar next month, to be honest with you.
I mean, at this rate, they might, because I don't even know if there's a contract signed yet for him to stick around. So, I don't know. They need to do something different, because we've been predicting Roman Reigns versus Brock for like probably since the summer. So, they need to definitely throw some kind of curveball in there. Being too predictable is going to piss everyone off.
Yeah, or maybe something's out like under, behind the scenes that Daniel Bryan's going to be ready by Royal Rumble and they're going to surprise the hell out of us. Which that could be cool too, but you don't know. I mean, who knows?
Yeah,
they've done shit like that before.
Mm-hmm. I mean, think about last year what happened. I mean, everybody knew Batista was going to win before it started, and when he did win, that pissed everybody off.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I'll continue on though with the show here, and we'll. I think the next match was the stairs match, which or no, wait, no, it was the I forgot about this one.
Oh, Miz.
Yeah, the Miz and the
Tag,
Mizdow versus the Usos for the tag titles. The whole, and I get it. I mean, it's fun and everything, the Miz and the Mizdow thing and whatever, but I don't know. Do you guys think it's like too telling or whatever of, I know it's 2014 and everything, but I mean, isn't it getting a little bit too ridiculous? What do you guys think?
I mean, I don't find it that funny as much as I did before, personally. I know a lot of people do, but I think it's working, so I don't have a problem with it, because if not, what do you do with them two guys? I mean, they're better off as a team right now. There's not enough teams. We got teams coming in. So having a good tag division, I think, is important, and I think the whole dynamic of having, that face heel on a team is different. So as far as it working, I think let's stick with it, because if they separate and try to push them both on their own, it's just going to take up needless TV time with two guys that are never going to make it above a certain level at this point. So from my point of view, I think just keep it and just let it run its course. And then from there, I don't know, figure it out.
Yeah, I agree with that, because Sandow, he's great in the role, but I can't see him doing much of anything once he separates from The Miz. And I think The Miz right now is the most interesting he's been in a long time, so I say keep them together for now. Even though he's telling that they're going to split them up, but I think that's the wrong idea right now.
Yeah, I just don't know how you really make that work when you split the team up. I mean, Mizdow is just a total, he's just a goof, honestly. And I know and I just don't know how you tell that story. They finally break up, and now Mizdow's like this tough dude that's going to beat up me. I mean, I don't know. It just seems, I don't know where you go.
It doesn't make any sense, because what's getting Mizdow over wouldn't be something he could do on his own. It doesn't make any sense. So he's just going to go back to the character he was, where some people liked him, and more or less people just found him a little boring. I was never a big Sandow fan, ever, but I know a lot of people are. So, I don't know how he'd be perceived, but people like this gimmick, and he won't be able to do the gimmick by himself.
Right.
And WWE is so used to just rushing through things that they need to just let this run its course. If they can sell merch out of it, if they can get people interested in it, keep it going. Don't be too quick to break it up.
You know what's going to happen at the Rumble? Miz will probably get eliminated, and Sandow's probably not going to eliminate himself. He's probably going to start that whole feud.
Or he'll eliminate Miz. Yeah, something will happen.
Right, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's not even a pay-per-view feud, by the way. It's probably something that's going to be on Raw. I would think.
You would think, but
it'll probably be a Mania.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah.
They'd probably use it for that. But my problem with the match was they had that little story going on with the Usos and Miz, and I feel like this match tonight didn't really progress that story at all. The story is actually pretty interesting, I think. It's different, involving Uso's wife and this, that. I think it's kind of cool, because it's just
Well, it's different than it.
Lines like that anymore, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of different just because they actually have a storyline of some sort, you know, and usually they don't give them anything.
Yeah, and that's what I think made the match somewhat interesting and somewhat have a point, but I don't feel like that story progressed at all after tonight, which makes no sense to me, which either means this feud just going to carry on and they're going to start progressing it more at Raw, but I would have liked to see some more aspects of that story, you know, come in, whatever it may be. And I know Freddie made up a good point. It would be awesome if all of a sudden Maurice, you know, got involved in the story somehow, but something needs to happen to keep this interesting because it's a story for an undercard that gives them something to do and keep it interesting than just having one main event story and everything else just garbage.
When they have Naomi and Miz doing the, you know, the backstage skits and stuff like that, it seems to me that Naomi is either a horrible fucking actress or they're just telling her to make her lines up as she goes. I don't know which. I'm thinking it's you know, that she's just a horrible actress, but like that's like brutal, man, watching her.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's why she's not on Total Divas. I have no idea.
I've been in independent films that has better acting than that.
I actually thought she was going to distract the Usos for some reason. I thought maybe she'll come out and do something accidentally and cost them the match. That's what I thought was going to happen. But
yeah, she didn't even come
happen
out.
Eventually. We got Royal Rumble left. I mean, you know.
Right.
That could happen at some point. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I mean, Miz and Mizdow retained the titles, and you know, they have their rematch probably on Raw tomorrow night. I'm guessing. So after that was the Big Show and Eric Rowan Stairs match, which everybody I know was looking forward to this.
This was definitely the worst match of the night. I think this was the worst.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just boring from beginning to end.
Oh, it didn't even make sense. Stairs match? That's the worst. The stairs?
I don't know what it.
They're trying to explain that those stairs were 300 pounds. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you bump?
300 pounds, yeah.
300 pound stairs?
Probably. No, but like they never really. All the other matches too. Like we know what the rules for tables, ladders, and chairs in the tables match is, and the ladders match. Did they ever really explain what the hell the stairs match?
No. What you can bring the stairs in the ring, like instead of just using them on the outside like they do every week on Raw.
And I'm pretty sure they never really. And we'll talk about the chairs match. Did they ever have a chairs match before? And what in the fuck is a chairs match?
They've had it before, but they always just use chairs. I guess, I don't know. The same match as every other match on the show, to be honest with you.
They couldn't just call it like a no-holds-barred match or something. It's a chairs match. You could only use chairs.
Why is Big Show still on pay-per-view? I'm curious. What is that? Is that selling any? Is that drawing any money?
Black contract.
Oh my god.
Yeah, at this point in the game, like, especially when you have him go over your younger guys that are going to be there for a long time, like, what value does it?
Eric Rowan at all?
I don't know. I just don't understand, like, how does it benefit WWE really? Because everybody and their mother is sick to death of Big Show.
Mm-hmm. I think he won because of Reigns. I think because Reigns coming back. I think that's his next opponent. So they had to keep Big Show strong.
We're all looking forward to that feud right there.
Oh my god, it's gonna put butts in seats.
I can smell the money right now. Those stocks are gonna go straight up the roof.
Yeah, so this match was terrible. I wouldn't even want to watch this on Raw or whatever. So I don't know. It did nothing for Rowan. I think it actually made Rowan look worse. I think like I was like, oh, you know, Rowan's kind of getting up there. He's gonna have some good feuds, and I feel like this brought him down the ladder, and I feel like he's gonna be just kind of like you can't take him seriously anymore.
I think what the good part about the Whites was that you kind of hid his weaknesses, and I think as a singles competitor, he can't hide how weak and how green he is. He's not ready to be a singles guy yet.
And what's his gimmick? Because I feel like, remember they did this thing one week where they said he was like really smart, and then all of a sudden they like stopped talking about that. Like they didn't bring that up again.
He makes wine, supposedly. He's a great winemaker or something.
Yeah, but where did they? And for one, where did they find this out? Do they make all the wrestlers take IQ tests and stuff? Like, I don't get it. And like, if that's the case, why did he just take one now? He's been employed for like a while.
They did a thing with Renee Young too, right? For like 1 week, and then they quit that shit too.
Yeah, then he did the grumpy cat thing, and then he was really smart the next week, and then he made wine and stuff. I don't know.
Obviously, it's just one of those guys that they just have a new idea for him every week, and they forget about the old idea from last week. I don't know.
Now they're calling him like that gum, like Big Red.
Big Red.
He's gonna be like chewing the gum or something.
Right. They're trying to get another sponsorship deal there. He can be in the Big Red chewing gum commercials.
He has Asian music too, which I don't get.
I swear to God, yeah, I think the same thing. Like I'm thinking, here comes Taka Michinoku back, you know.
Well, at least he doesn't have. Yoshitatsu's music was the worst. Remember that thing? Oh my God, I used to cringe when I heard that thing.
Yoshitatsu's one of those guys too. Like I remember, I completely forgot he existed until I watched an episode of NXT and he was on it. And I was like, oh yeah, that dude. Where in the hell?
Except he was like 50 pounds heavier, and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah. And then I was like thinking, I saw some guy on there too, and it reminded me, it was a different wrestler, I think, but it reminded me of, I think his name was Tyler Rex or something like that. You remember him?
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck was that guy's name? It's not him, but yeah, I was like, he's probably in NXT too. He's just, you know, trying to train and that.
Yeah, I don't know.
To get better.
With Big Red. There's too many bigs. Big Show, Big Red Machine, Big Guy. When they're on the ring, that's confusing. I don't know. Michael Cole doesn't know who's who. It's crazy.
Penis envy by Vince McMahon.
It's unfortunate. I mean, to me, because Eric Rowan's not that good. I mean, honestly, like you were saying, he's green. He's not got that much training under his belt yet or anything. But at the same time, he's pretty much the same size as the Big Show. And he's young. He's a younger guy that they can. And Vince loves big guys, you know. Big Show, his days are very numbered. I mean, he's not going to be around much longer. So I don't really understand why you couldn't have the old guy put the new guy over in a way. I mean, that's the only benefit either of these guys would have had from this. I mean, Big Show win this match, who cares? But if Eric Rowan was to, you know, somehow beat the Big Show clean, that would be something they could say, you know, on TV. That was something, some sort of accomplishment, I guess. I don't know, but it makes no sense to me why you would, you know, job Eric Rowan out. Totally.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. As much as I don't want to see this, but I think Eric Rowan could be like, he could take the place of what Kane was. You know, he's got the mask thing. He's big. You know, maybe have them feud and then say goodbye to Kane. I mean, if Kane's a lot better of a wrestler for sure, and he's lasted a lot longer than anybody else thought he would. But you know, you've got a young guy that's big like this, and I mean, fade Kane out and have this guy just take over whatever they wanted him to do.
I agree with that too. Yeah.
Continuing on here, odd placement for this match because I was almost guaranteeing this was going to be the last match in the show, which was a pleasant surprise. But the next match after was John Cena versus Seth Rollins. It was what was the gimmick behind this match? I can't remember. There's so many gimmicks.
Tables.
Just a tables match? Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a sort of a big surprise. You know, Cena won, of course. Roman Reigns returns after I think Big Show came out and put his Big Show stank on this match. I mean, I think this was a decent match. You know, both of these guys. You know, John Cena. You can say what you want to about John Cena, but if he's in there with somebody that's that can go, the match is almost always going to be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, and Seth Rollins is like, they're really high. Obviously, you can tell they're really high on all the Shield guys. You know, I mean, Seth Rollins, they're pushing Seth and Dean Ambrose both to the moon, and we all know what they're pushing Roman Reigns too much. But you know, these guys are definitely, they see him as the future of the company, and it's true. I mean, if they can stay away from injuries, these guys are you know, the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Top guys, I would say. But anyway, I mean, back to the match. What did you guys think of the match overall? A lot of interference and bullshit like that, but
Yeah, I thought it was very overbooked. Because they had a match a while ago on SmackDown just by themselves when Ross was in the Shield, and it was an excellent match. So I was kind of expecting that, but I thought it was too much interference. Big Show being part of it, I don't know why he was there. Roman Reigns, fine, would bring him in that way, that's cool, but you know, I think we all expected that Cena would win the match, and I don't know. I liked it, but I didn't think it could have been better. I thought, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it could have been better. I mean, it wasn't bad. You were right when you said that Cena will work good with whoever he's in there with, especially if he's in there with a good worker. You know, the match is always, you know, decent and definitely, you know, watchable for sure. Yeah, Big Show, it doesn't make sense. I don't know why he's in there. Where does that go? I mean, is that just a Raw feud that they're going to blow off? Like, we want to see Cena Big Show again.
We had that on Monday, too. Like,
yeah.
So,
I mean, it's not going to go into Royal Rumble because we already know what that's going to be, so where does this go? Like, what's the point, you know? It's going to end up just leading to a Reigns feud with Big Show, I guess.
I say Reigns throws out Big Show out of the Rumble, probably, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't care about Reigns at this point. You know, maybe in the future I will. I just think it's too predictable. It's force-fed. You know, I don't know. I feel like Rollins is the guy. I don't think his future is a heel. I think he probably will do better as a face eventually because there's a lot of stuff that they're keeping him on lock with now that he's a heel as far as his moveset and being as entertaining as he could. And I don't know. I just think that that's where their future is, not with Reigns, but you know, that could all switch. If their plan is eventually a Rollins-Reigns feud for that title, you know, they may have to flip those guys based on the crowd reaction to Reigns within the next couple months.
I agree, though, Freddie, you mentioned that it was overbooked, and there was a lot of, like, just stuff that was like, what the fuck, because there was a spot there where Cena, I guess the ref was knocked out, and Cena put, you know, Seth through the table, and, you know, the guy's covered up and all that bull. There's all kinds of bullshit like that. But then there's another spot where both of them go through the table at the same time. There's other refs that come out there. Why didn't the refs come out there and be like, hey, dude, Cena won the match, whatever else? I mean, instead of saying, oh, you know, he crashed in the table first. No, Cena crashed in the table. That's just stupid. Like, you know, any legit, and I know it's professional wrestling, but any legitimate sport, like, it just doesn't make any damn sense.
Yeah, because sometimes they use the replay option and sometimes they don't. And this time they just, like, 5 minutes after it happened, they just forgot that even occurred in the match. Yeah, I thought that was really stupid. I thought if they were going to go with the double win, they should have both of them be the number one contender or something like that. But I guess they just wanted Cena Lesnar Part 4. So I thought it would be more interesting if Rollins was part of that equation in some way, but I guess not.
Yeah, I don't really know, you know, the Money in the Bank thing, and I've been thinking about it a lot. I mean, at some point he's going to cash that in, and I don't know when that really makes sense.
I think at Mania, because if Reigns is going to win the title, I think that you do it right there and have Rollins pin Reigns right at the end.
That would be something. That's something I don't think they've ever done.
No, that's why I think they should do it, because you have Reigns versus Rollins, which is already a legit feud that you don't need to really build up. It's already been built, so it's easy to do.
Yeah.
And Rollins deserves it. I mean, he's had the best year out of, you know, between him and Reigns, and for Reigns to just come back and all of a sudden be the champion, I mean, that doesn't make much sense. I mean, you would think Seth would deserve that, you know, more, and I think even in the fans' eyes, he'd deserve it more at Mania. You know, I think that would get a pop rather than people be pissed. And And the
Well,
whole
it will be a WrestleMania moment.
yeah,
right.
You know.
Well, as good as Seth is too in the ring, I mean, he has really scaled back a lot of the high flying stuff that he's done, and I think it's a smart move considering like how how many injuries we've had lately. But I mean, it's WrestleMania and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure he's going to bring a lot of shit out, and whoever he has a match with at Mania. I mean, he's one of those guys that you just know he's going to bring it. And at big matches, it's going to be a spectacle, if you will. So, yeah, I mean, I think that the cash in at Mania would be something memorable, as long as he won.
Right. Which I think will happen. I think he is going to win and cash in. So.
I agree, because that would be the most important time. I feel like anything after won't be as important.
Yeah, because I think he's been built up really well since having that briefcase, because usually the guy always loses every match. And he's been, like, winning a lot of matches lately, so
yeah,
they've been building up really strong.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is because so many people were out injured and all that. But that reminded me, though, speaking of injuries and all that, I don't know if he's injured, but he's been out for a little while. Randy Orton, what do you guys do with him? I mean, he's going to be coming back at some point soon. Like, I was thinking, what can they do? Because Randy Orton, they always like to have something good for Orton around WrestleMania season. What the hell could that be?
I thought we were going to see him tonight, to be honest,
Right.
but it was Reigns that we saw instead. Freddie, you go, because you made a good point earlier about what you think should happen with him.
Oh yeah, I thought I thought Orton was going to interfere tonight, but I said maybe do Orton versus Rollins at WrestleMania, because maybe have Rollins in the Royal Rumble, have Orton throw him out, and then you have sort of a deal going on. I mean, it's already been built, the history's already there. Have Rollins go over Orton at Mania and then have him cash it in and get a title. I mean, that'd be the best thing for Rollins at that moment.
Yeah, I think it has to be Rollins. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they built the feud for quite a while. It just totally makes sense for it to be Rollins, because I don't know what you do. I mean, I could say Rollins Ziggler for the IC would be an awesome match, but if he's going to cash in the Money in the Bank at Mania, then him versus Ziggler would be a waste of time.
I think Barrett would be Ziggler's next opponent, honestly.
Well, that's right. Yeah. But
he should be ready to come back too, right? He should be.
Yeah.
He should be back probably any day now, I'm guessing. So let's see. Let's continuing on. They after the match, they of course announced. And you mentioned this is the fourth match Lesnar and Cena is going to have at the Rumble, right? On this pay-per-view match.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Which is crazy because Lesnar is like only really had a handful of matches since he come back. I mean, I understand Cena's the top guy, but I mean, you've seen it. We've seen it so many times. I don't know how.
They've used Lesnar really terribly since he's been back, because you have 4 matches with Cena, you have 3 with Triple H, and then you have the Punk, the Taker, and the Big Show matches. I mean, it's not really anything really memorable, really, except for those 16 suplexes that he did on Cena and the streak ending. I think other than that, really, it's been very lackluster.
Yeah, especially as champion, too. I mean, at the beginning, I didn't have a problem with having the world champion not on all the time. I was fine with it. Do I want him to be overexposed? No. But what I think they should do to make him more legit and make that title more legit is, why don't they do things where he's just doing promos from his house with the title,
Right.
On the couch, or, back like in the day, I feel like, when they did the territories and stuff, what I remember is, like, I remember Flair was never always on certain shows, NWA, but they'd always show him, like, on little, vignettes just promoting him as the champion. And I feel like Brock is like, they barely even talk about him on the weekly show, except for when he's in a feud. I mean, they should do things where, he'll be on the monitor and they'll be praising him because he's the champion, and basically him acting like he's bigger than the WWE, and they haven't done any of that. And that's what I think pisses me off the most, is that since he's had that title, it's almost like him and the title are non-existent.
I think Brock's going back to UFC, though. I mean, I think that's why they're not really
Yeah.
promoting him as much. I mean, they think they kind of know they can't afford to pay him what they've been paying him for the last couple of years, and he's one of those guys that's just out to get what he can get. He's going to get as much money as possible. And honestly, man, I think that they want to do Brock Lesnar and CM Punk in a match for UFC. You know, I mean, maybe that's crazy, but I'm sure that somebody there has thought of that. Like,
but it's weight class. Can they even do it?
If money is involved, they'll do it.
Yes.
Yeah. They could do it.
That'd be a million pay-per-view buys right there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine that? I mean, and it would be interesting because Brock has not had and he sucked the last couple of matches that he had anyway in UFC. So it'd be interesting to see how that would go. I'm sure. I mean, maybe that'll never happen. Maybe that's crazy to even think about. But you gotta think that somebody at UFC has thought of that.
Oh, of course. I'm sure it has. It's just a matter of if they're ballsy enough to pull that trigger. Yeah. So, I mean, that changes a lot, I feel, for UFC. Like, that changes the game for it. But, again, if it comes to money, that's going to be the highest grossing pay-per-view they've ever sold, for sure.
Yeah. They will do it just for the money alone. And for the publicity, too. I think that would be great for the company.
Yeah. So. Regardless of where he goes, though, Brock, I think that he's not going to stay with WWE. I just don't think they can afford him. You know, it doesn't make sense for him. It doesn't make sense for them either, just because they can't use him. I mean, like you were saying, they should have done some sort of videos or something planned months in advance. But, you know, you haven't seen anything from Brock in, 3 months almost?
Right.
I mean, there's camera phones. Why not just use a camera phone and just send the footage to the company and then have them post it? I don't know.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I don't know what his contract looks like, but I mean, is he going to ask for more money if someone comes and films him for 5 minutes at his house? Or, you know, that's the thing. Like, they should have been smarter than that. If they were going to give him that belt and they knew that he wasn't here for all the dates, they should have had that planned. Like, how are we going to keep him relevant? You know, I mean, the most relevant he is Paul Heyman coming out and talking about him for like a minute. You never even see Brock with the title. Like, I just feel like they needed to put that title on a pedestal, have Brock with it, and, you know, not be on the show, but, you know, kind of mocking the WWE because he's home with that belt, and just make that seem larger than life. And I feel like now it's almost made that title seem worthless, really. Like, they don't need it.
Or have Heyman come out with a title every time he comes out. I mean, it's so easy to do. Just have it seen that this guy's the champion. I mean, I don't get why it's so hard.
I don't know.
Continuing on, though, Divas Championship match. Nikki Bella versus AJ Lee. And I actually missed most of this match. I know one of you guys were saying this may be AJ's last WWE pay-per-view, or somebody was mentioning that. I don't know if that's the case or not.
Yeah. They always say that every month.
Yeah. It seems like we were talking about this last month. I know. But AJ, I'll agree with what one of you guys were saying. It doesn't seem like she's into being there anymore.
She's very going through the motions. Every time I see her, it's like she's there for a check, really. She's not there to really be there.
Well, I think she does well there. I mean, I know I'd heard her merchandise does really well. Young girls like AJ, she looks like a little kid, basically. Looks like one of them, kind of like the Rey Mysterio Jr. thing. So, yeah, I mean, she does well there. It's just, I don't think she really wants to be there. But I mean, what do you guys think of the match? It was actually just, kind of. It seemed like kind of a.
AJ always goes out there and works hard, regardless of how I feel like she acts, emotionally, or, she really doesn't do much on the mic. She did some stuff last week, but that was really the first time that you've heard from her in a while, really get on the mic and drop a promo. But I think it went a lot better than you expect from, Nikki Bella and an AJ. Yeah. I mean, I think they gave him a little bit of time, which was nice. It wasn't like, get in and out in a minute. And the finish I thought it was fine because it was a heel move that we don't see, quite often anymore. So I didn't mind it. As far as where this takes AJ or Nikki, I'm not sure. I hope it takes Nikki to a new opponent and not back to AJ again, because we need something fresh.
Yeah, I agree with that because I thought it was a decent little match, but no one really cared. But yeah, I mean, Nikki Bella has really impressed me lately. I think she's got a lot better in the ring. I'm kind of glad she is the champion right now. I kind of feel like she deserved it. But yeah, AJ to me, I feel like her days are numbered. I feel like her loyalty to her husband kind of outweighs her role in the company at the moment. But yeah, I kind of wish they have new opponents next month because it's getting tired to see AJ in the title picture. I kind of want someone first, like maybe Naomi or somebody like that. Against Nikki would probably be pretty good. I mean, something different.
It seems like they should do, like if you're going to do a program with these girls, give them a at least somewhat of a story. I mean, that's the one thing like the Divas always lacks. Like never really give them a reason to fight each other most of the time.
Right.
You know, give us a reason to actually want to see these matches. You know, and of course you can say that with a lot of the other matches on here too, really. But the writing, I think, is, and just the direction of the company. I mean, just the way things are in WWE right now is like, it's just ass backwards, I think, man. I mean, it should be whoever deserves the shot, you know, instead of just whoever they like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's so weird because you watch NXT and you see how they treated the women. Like, so important on the show, and then you go to the main roster, it's like an afterthought. It's like very bipolar. It's very weird. I don't get why things are booked differently on both shows.
I agree. I mean, we'll talk about NXT quickly, but it is night and day with those women. I mean, when NXT comes on, the Divas matches, the women's matches, I'm excited about. You know, like when they come out, I'm like, all right, this is gonna be awesome. You know, like my mindset is totally different than it is when I watch, especially Raw. Like tonight wasn't too bad, but you know, when you go out there on Raw and you've got like those 6 Diva tag matches and stuff, that it's garbage, man, and it sucks too because you got people out there like Natalya, who's great, and you know Paige, who's great, and then you kind of mix them in with you know Cameron, and it's junk. You know, it just sucks that we can't see the type of matches that we see, you know, on NXT from rookies.
I wonder what. I mean, are they just given more leeway? I mean, because it's the same company, but
it's time. I think it's time, and I think it's time during the match and time on the story. Like, you know, you had that Paige AJ story that was going on for a little while. For one, it was a stupid story where they were like in love or following each other around. I don't know, but again, I feel like AJ wasn't in it as much as Paige was, and I think that really affected the match. I mean, you think of a Paige AJ match, and you know, you're like, oh, this is gonna be awesome, but I feel like AJ wasn't into it, man, as much as she should have been, and therefore maybe they weren't given enough time, but I don't feel like that was as memorable as it should have been, those matches that they had. Yeah,
I agree with that. Because they're both great workers, but it just didn't click for some reason. I think AJ's not really mentally there. That's what I really think.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, if you really think about it, it's got to be tough for her.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Just the situation itself, I mean, you know, her husband or whatever is just pissed off pretty much everybody in the whole damn company. I mean, all the higher-ups at least. So,
yeah. I mean
that's got to be just, I don't know, that's got to suck.
On behalf of the WWE, though, they haven't really shit on AJ as much as you would have thought they would have. I mean, yeah, they had that throwaway match last month, but, you know, she won Diva of the Year, she's got the title, you know, she's back and forth. I mean, they still treated her pretty well. You know, and you can just tell, though, like, I'm a big fan of hers, and I always was, but, you know, I'm only saying that I just feel like mentally she doesn't seem into it, is because, you know, that's honestly how I feel, and I feel like, again, I think Punk has a lot to do with it. It must be tough for her. It's like she's living double lives, you know?
And it wouldn't surprise me if he's kind of putting words in her head, too, kind of telling her things maybe that she kind of takes out of it. So
I guarantee he does.
Yeah. So continuing on with the TLC show, I was looking forward to this match all night too. Ryback versus Kane in the chairs match. Oh yeah.
No thanks.
It sucked, but I will say one thing about this match that was different than the Rowan and Big Show match is I got to give credit to Ryback because as much as this match kind of sucked and was boring, for some reason he was still able to get the crowd somewhat into it, somewhat behind him. I mean, they were chanting his catchphrases. He had them, at least making noise. So as much as this match was, boring and stupid, he was able to keep people engaged, which you got to give him a lot of credit for.
Yeah, I mean, I was not a fan of the match either, but at least he had two decent workers in there, which helped. Mm-hmm. I just wish there was more of a feud between them because I didn't understand why they were having this match to begin with. It just seemed to happen because they needed a position to fill. So here,
I think that out there evidently Kane is like a really liked guy too because he always finds his way on the pay-per-views. Like even though they never have anything for him, really. Have you guys noticed that? Like he's always on the pay-per-views.
He's probably one of the most loyal people there. And he's probably one of the leaders of the locker room, so yeah, I mean.
And I mean, he for a guy his size, he's good. He's a good worker. And the thing about Kane too is think about how long he's been in the company, and everybody thought he was just going to be a quick in and out. And I mean, he's able to establish himself and change himself, and with the times. I mean, as much as corporate Kane is so stupid, I mean, he's been able to hang on and keep himself relevant. And the one thing about Kane too. He's all these years he's never hurt. Like I mean, you never see Kane like out of action for like months and then make a comeback. Like I rarely remember the time that he ever was out with injury. Like I feel like he's just always been there, So yeah, I mean, I think he's just really well respected. I like him. I do think it's time for him to hang it up personally.
Yeah.
But I respect him now and his whole career, but. Again, it's time to, I'm glad he did the job tonight to kind of push Ryback, but I think him and Big Show, it's time to just, move on and maybe get a job at the headquarters or something. But in ring, no, I think it's just past due at this point.
Yeah, you've done everything you could possibly do with those guys.
Yeah, and it's not
very much like in what was it, 2005 or whatever, or 2006. I said this about the Dudleys there. I was like, they've done everything they can freaking do. It's just they've got to move on. And luckily for them, they did. And I actually think that they could come back and make a lot of money there right now.
Willie Ray, especially, could really do stuff there, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure eventually he will at least be back there at some point. But, I mean, it's the same thing with them. They've just been there for so long. You've just done everything you can possibly do with those guys, and just, I mean, I guess you can't force them to retire, but give them something off camera to do like they're doing with David Otunga or whatever the hell he's doing for them. Like, hey, give them guys something else to do, like just ambassador roles or something.
He'd be a great role agent too, I think.
I think so. I mean, I think that he'd definitely be somebody good in that field of a road agent for sure. I mean,
or NXT or something, yeah, like a trainer or something.
What sucks too is I feel like for someone whose career was so good, and I mean, I think Kane's definitely Hall of Fame material. I mean, he's, and the Big Show as well. The problem is because we're so late in their careers, I almost think that this is hurting their legacy. Because I don't, people are going to remember Kane for what? You don't want to remember him for this last year of corporate Kane. I mean, this is almost shitting on the rest of his career because it's so stupid, And for people that are getting into wrestling now, like I'm sure there's probably little kids out there who only know corporate Kane, And I just feel like that he should have got out of it a while ago and make those sporadic comebacks as Kane and maybe for WrestleMania or some kind of specialty match, and it would have seemed so much more important, where now I feel like he's almost a joke of himself in a way.
Yeah, I think it's been that way for a little while with him, though, unfortunately,
I think he's just there. I just think he's just there because if so many guys injured, they need a body. I think that's the reason why he's still. I'm sure he wanted to retire years ago, but I guess, and he spots to fill, so he's there.
And poor Cesaro is sitting in the back, not getting a match. We got Big Show up there.
I mean, you basically know why that's happening. Vince kind of shit all over the guy.
But it didn't make sense, though.
It didn't make sense.
Behind him. Well, they are behind him. And then he's like, I don't know if it's because he's Swiss. Yeah, it's because he's Swiss. And
no, it's because he put him with Heyman and turned him heel when he should have been face. That's the reason why he's not over. Going back to NXT, we'll have great matches with Zayn and Owens and
people with standing ovations for the guy.
Right.
Remember that whole thing where people had Cesaro section signs in WWE for a while, and then all of a sudden, I don't know if they were confiscated or what, but like, I don't know. He's the one who put the brakes on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Meltzer. I'd heard Meltzer say that he is like. I think Triple H loves Cesaro.
He does.
And McMahon is like he just doesn't see it. Vince doesn't see it, and he's the one that puts the kibosh on everything. Cesaro,
but he loves having a bunny on the show.
Right.
Stupid.
Well, we didn't see
Rose.
At least we didn't see the bunny tonight. I mean, I got to give him credit there.
No bunnies, no bulls, and no gators. Thank God.
Yeah. So yeah, Ryback. He did the shell shock or whatever. It was like it was a brief match. I don't think it lasted that long, did it?
It was kind of long. It was like 10 minutes.
Was it kind of long?
Yeah, like 10, 12 minutes.
Because I noticed they pulled out 3 matches out of their ass like back to back to back. It seemed like, and like this next one, I completely forgot about this for some reason, and I think Garrett was talking about the same thing, like Rusev and Jack Swagger for the U.S. title. And here's the thing too, guys. Like I don't know if you noticed this, but the crowd was like dead for everything, pretty much. Aside from maybe the opening match with Ziggler and Luke Harper, like I didn't really hear that crowd at all. Like they were pretty much quiet the whole time. Like I think they were in Cleveland tonight, right?
Right.
Yep.
And they were even like kind of silent for this. I mean, usually the Rusev and all that stuff with Lana and Rusev always gets people going, but I didn't even hear it in this match here. Like I was kind of surprised.
Now, I ran upstairs really quick and grabbed something to eat and then came back down because it was almost like they went to like, I don't know, it was between the last 2 matches. All of a sudden I saw a commercial for like those slammers, so I ran upstairs and grabbed something. By the time I came down, they were already on. And I don't know if they ran down. I didn't know if they came back and they were already in the ring. Did Lana do any mic work at all?
She went to cut a promo and then Jack Swagger's music just came on and interrupted her. So that's
all right. Because I was like, I don't know how they just did all this in that quick of a time.
Well, it seemed like they wrapped up the Ryback Kane thing really quick. Like they had to run those guys out of there, whatever, and they had a quick commercial, and then they had the Rusev and all those guys come out, and I was like, because it seemed like they almost forgot the match was happening too.
I forgot too. I didn't remember it.
Yeah, this was like 10 minutes after 10 o'clock when this match started or something, and I was like, wow, really? Like, because I figured Ryback and Kane, and that was kind of the slow match for the main event, because they always do that,
Right.
They have some sort of really shitty match before the main event. So, but yeah, I mean,
I think this feud is just, I don't know, it's like been there, done that with these two. I just don't get it. Why this even exists. I think this was meant for Sheamus before he got injured, but anybody better than Swagger. Come on.
I mean, I would have rather seen Cesaro decide to turn face and come out and do it, but
why not?
I feel like I almost feel like Rusev's gone down since he won that U.S. title, and I feel like the amount of possibilities they could do with him having that title as far as promos or whatever nothing has been done. And it's like he's holding up the U.S. title, and I don't know. It's strange. Like, they should be mocking the U.S. with it. I mean, I just feel like they're not doing anything. And I read today that Lana posted a picture on Twitter of the European title with the new logo on it, and then she took it right down. So I don't know if that's something to come, which I think would at least give us a little bit of an interest in some kind of story if they flip the belts. But I don't know. I don't know. I feel like Rusev's in a holding pattern right now, and it's almost making me disinterested in him as a character.
You could totally do that. Maybe have him come out and just throw the U.S. title in the trash or burn it or do something, and then introduce the new belt. Like, I think that's a good idea. Like, I would do something like that.
You got Cesaro fight for that. I mean, he's European.
I mean, that would be a great feud to start up if they bring that out, and then he come out and go. I mean, that would be awesome. That would make a lot of interest in there.
Or have Face Barrett come out and challenge him.
Yeah. I mean, it would just that alone would be interesting because the title would be switched to the European title, number one, and number two, it would set up a lot more different feuds because what is left for him now? And if they're saving him for Cena and they're just using him to run through people, who else is there as a face that he's just going to run through?
Rowan? I honestly don't think a match with him and Cena is going to be anything anyway. I don't know how you. I just don't see that as being a big WrestleMania match. I don't know how they see it as that either.
But what do you do with Cena at Mania? What do you do with Rusev at Mania? I mean, where does this go?
If you're going to put those guys together, you got to do a tag match, and you got to have Cena and Hogan versus Rusev and some other old motherfucker. That's the only way you could get anything out of that, I would think.
Nikolai
Volkov.
Yeah, Nikolai.
Remember when he had
you could probably find him on the streets of New Jersey somewhere or something, wherever he's at.
Remember like the 90s when he came back and he was with $1 Million Man? He had like the little cent sign on his trunks. Remember
that? Right. God, he was in that group. My God, he was so terrible.
Man, I'm pretty sure though Nikolai is like I don't know how well he's doing because even in the 90s, wasn't he always wearing that same like red like blazer or whatever? It's like he only had like one suit. So he probably used the money, man.
Do
you remember when he turned face for like a little bit? And I'll never forget this. There's one Survivor Series. I think he fought against like Slaughter's team, and Slaughter was like Iraq.
Yeah.
And you gotta watch that because he was doing like these weird kicks, and he kept yelping. It was really strange. I never forget that. So it's whatever that match is, you gotta watch it. It's hilarious.
I don't really remember that, but I will.
Oh my God, you gotta go back and find it.
I'll check it out at some point.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I agree, though, Freddie. You're talking. I mean, what's the point? Jack Swagger is. I don't know. Were we talking about this on the actual show? Or are we not recording this? I can't remember.
I think it was right when we started.
Right when we started, we were talking about this. I mean, Jack Swagger, at this point in the game, what in the hell can you do with Jack Swagger? I mean, you just You should have brought somebody else in for this because he already got his ass beat once or twice. I don't know how many matches they had. I mean,
twice already. Yeah.
We've already seen this, And what is Jack Swagger getting out of this other than being just a glorified jobber?
Yeah, but the biggest question is who? Who makes sense at this point?
Why not put Reigns against him or somebody like that? I don't know.
I mean, that would have made sense, but, I mean, if you didn't have Swagger tonight, then who else could it have been? I mean, again, we said Cesaro. Who else?
I'm thinking? Because I feel like if they're going to do the European title, I kind of feel that's the way to put in Neville, because he's British, and have him beat Rusev maybe at Mania or something, kind of like, oh, is this...
No, that's probably never ever going to happen in our lifetime.
You never know. With this company, you never know.
I know for a fact. Okay, I'm going to lay it on the line here.
Heard it here first.
Adrian Neville is never going to make it in WWE. I'm sorry. I think the guy's talented, but he's got too much going against him. He's not going to work. They should just leave him in NXT. That'd be the best thing to do for him.
He's looking for the one ring, the brass ring.
I agree with you. I feel the same way, unfortunately, because he's very different. He is somebody very different, very talented. I think the fact that he's so good that he could bypass the normal he'll flop type of deal because he's that good in the ring. But besides his skills, he has nothing else going for him. His mic work sucks. His ears suck, and he's so small. I mean, that's the thing. I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't know how he overcomes it. If he would have came in as a luchador and been the next Rey Mysterio, I think it could have worked at the time, but I don't know. I agree with you, but I think if anybody's going to overcome the odds, because he's that good, it could be him. But I really don't see it.
I totally see, when I see him, I see guys like Evan Bourne and Kofi.
Yeah.
And the only guy that's ever really made it that's been, you know, I'm not going to say he was an ugly guy or anything, but I mean, he was a small dude. Rey Mysterio is the only one, really, that they ever gave any sort of push to. But that was so long ago, I just can't see them doing that now. I mean, as good as he is, and I mean, he's great, but it's just, I don't see them ever. He's one of those guys. I think Hideo Itami is another one that I just can't see them ever using him. I mean, maybe they'll be lifetime NXT guys or something. I don't know. But
the problem is he has no charisma. I think that's really the issue. Because Rey Mysterio has charisma. I think he has the entire package, Rey Mysterio, which is why he was so successful. Neville, he has the in-ring talents, but he can't talk. Doesn't really have a presence about him, really. It's tough.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of Jerry Lynn in a way. I mean, the same type of wrestler, a little bit more of a high flyer, but I mean, great in ring, but he didn't really have anything else.
Even Chris Benoit in a way too. Like, he had no mic skills, but he was great in the ring.
Right.
In a way, yeah.
But I mean, Chris Benoit, though, I mean, he didn't have mic skills or anything, but he had like a charisma about him.
A presence, yeah. He did have a presence about him.
Yeah, I don't. It's unfortunate, I can tell you that. I mean, it's unfortunate because I felt like he was a good NXT champion. He felt like a top guy there, and even in NXT though, if he hangs around and is out of the main event, what does he do? You know, what does he do?
The end of that Our Evolution show, though, it made it seem like he was maybe moving up. I mean, that's
exactly what I think, for sure.
But I just don't see what you do with him. I mean, we'll talk NXT though after. I mean, we got one more match. I did want to touch on though tonight's show. We didn't really talk. I mean, Roman Reigns made a surprise return. We talked about that. He did like an interview, and I think that they're getting a little closer to figure out how to make his interviews better. And not that this was actually a good interview they did, but they kept it really brief. He didn't say a whole lot, and it kind of worked a little bit better. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I actually felt like it was terrible. He mumbled his words. I feel like Roman Reigns, with charisma and personality and animation behind him, is terrible. I feel like he doesn't get it. His facial expressions seem forced. I don't know. I felt like it wasn't as short as it needed to be, because as soon as it got to a certain point, he started losing what he wanted to say, and it started just getting a big mess. And then he started, trying to be animated, and I felt like it just almost seemed silly to me.
I do think that was one of his better promos. He's not a great promo at all. I think they're trying to make him like The Rock, and it's not working. He has to be like Goldberg, guy who doesn't talk, just goes in the ring and kills people, and he'll be over.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you guys. I think Goldberg's a good. Like, go back and look at. I mean, Goldberg never really said anything for the longest time.
Right.
And maybe
just the mystery and the aura of the guy will make him a champion.
Mm-hmm. But I think that they are trying to make him like The Rock, because I think they want Reigns to be like the spokesperson for the company, the John Cena, The Rock, the guy that's going to be out there with little kids and going to Make-A-Wish, and in order to do that, you got to make his personality likable to everybody, and I just feel like he doesn't. That's not him. He's not the guy. As much as they may think he is right now, he's not. He's not. I think Sami Zayn is more the guy than Roman Reigns is. And I think, Seth Rollins is more the guy than Roman Reigns is. But, that's going to remain to be seen. I think they either going to make him that, like you said, like a Goldberg, or they going to put him heel. That's the only way. Because I think as a heel, he doesn't need that personality, and that's the only way he's going to get over.
Well, the thing, too, though, you got to look at, when The Rock first came in, he wasn't The Rock initially. You got to give him time to figure out what they're... I think that they want a certain thing with Roman Reigns, but at the end, they're going to get something probably special with him, but it's not going to be exactly what they wanted, and they have to mold it a little bit, You're not going to be able to say, okay, Roman Reigns, you're going to be like The Rock. That just doesn't work that way. He's got to be... you got to do something different with each guy that makes him, I don't know, special.
At least they're trying to push him as a main eventer, which is refreshing because it's always the same guys. So at least it's that, and hopefully he lands on his feet with that. But I don't know. I don't think he's ready for any kind of role. I think he needs a secondary title before he gets the main title.
Right, and it does remind me though when they brought The Rock in, though, like what I was saying, they wanted to push the hell out of him right away, and it just didn't work.
It backfired, and then that's what made him The Rock to begin with. So maybe that's what he needs.
Yeah. So
right, I agree. So why don't? But again, how did Rock become The Rock? That he had to go from face, everybody hating him, because they tried to push him as that top babyface, to go to heel, to actually get over, and then go back to face. Where I think that's the route they need to take, because I feel like they're going to try to push Roman to the moon. It's going to backfire, and they're going to have him go heel to recreate himself, and then come back as a face more organically than what they're trying to do. I think that's the same route that kind of Rock took. Is he organically became The Rock, out of them switching him over to a heel because they had no choice. And I feel like that's the same route that he really needs to take for him to be the guy that they need him to be.
But, of course, they already set up tonight. He already said he's going to be entered in the Rumble, and everybody and their mother already knows he's probably going to win it,
I see a swerve coming, though, for some reason.
Let's hope so. We can hope so, but...
I say final two, but I don't think he's going to win.
For $9.99, he's probably going to win.
You know what, though? I think bringing him out on the Slammy Awards and all that shit, that kind of... I thought that kind of lessened the surprise tonight that he come back. What did you really get out of him? And they didn't promote him for being on the Slammy Awards last week. Right. What do you get out of that? Why would you do that and ruin? And you saw him every once in a while on TV, but his first appearance back inside, the arena should have been the night instead of the Slammy Awards.
Did you guys read that article? I don't know if you guys read it, where they said the Slammy Awards for his category was fixed. Did you guys read that?
No. I read somewhere that was legit, supposedly. That's what it was saying.
Yeah, well, what they did was they showed, on WWE.com, the different categories and, the people that were in it. And in every category, there was a person, a line, a person, a line, a person, a line, and there was a little checkbox. When you look at the Superstar of the Year, it was a person, and then it was a line underneath. Then it was Daniel Bryan, no line, Roman Reigns, line. So they think that what happened was every time you clicked Roman Reigns or Daniel Bryan, it created one total number. They were almost they were one vote would work for each of them. So I don't know what made them decide it was going to be Roman Reigns, but it almost made it seem like whoever you chose for was going to go to one of those guys. Both votes would have went to one guy. And I just felt it was too coincidental that Reigns was just happened to be backstage to win. You know what I mean? I
agree.
You know what I mean?
I think all that shit's fixed.
Yeah, you would think so.
I think it is.
Because the Jericho one was fixed. Jericho one was the worst choice, and it won. I was like, what?
No, I just thought it was interesting. Superstar of the Year, Roman Reigns, really made no sense. He may have been the least best, because if you look back on what he did for the year, why would that be Superstar of the Year? The top thing he did was he threw a couple guys out in the Rumble. That was it. That was it. in reality, Brock Lesnar was guy of the year, and then Rollins is probably second behind him. But of course, a heel isn't going to win.
Yeah.
Main event of the show, though, and it's interesting that this was the main event of the show. Dean Ambrose versus Bray Wyatt in a TLC match. I think that it's a good move to do this. The only thing I wish is that they would have actually promoted this as this was the main event. And there was no second guessing this was going to be the last match in the show. But they really didn't. I mean, it was kind of a surprise. But it was I thought these guys had a great match. I still think Dean Ambrose is one of those guys that whatever they want him to do, he's going to be able to do it to perfection. You know, if they want him to play that crazy-ass character, he can. If they want him to be that arrogant asshole heel, he can do that too. I'm just like, I think he's, right now in that current group of people, I think he's the best guy they've got, in my opinion. I mean, it's actually out there right now. And he's just interesting to watch, I think. You don't really, he plays that crazy, I don't know how crazy they tell him to be, but you believe it almost. Like he acts like my girlfriend was actually watching it with me, and she was like, is he really crazy? Like, what the hell? Like, he acts, I'm like, no, it's just a character, but he does it well.
I think that really is him in a way. I think that's just who he is. He's very quirky and eccentric, and I think that's what makes him so popular. I think he's so different than anybody else that's there. And it's natural. It's not like Bray Wyatt, where you kind of feel like it's a little bit forced. You know, he's great, but Ambrose, it feels like it's really him. And I think that's why he's so connected with the audience.
Yeah, I agree totally. I think it's all him.
Well, and something else, too, that I'd heard, I think Brian Alvarez, or one of the guys on the Wrestling Observer podcast, the reason they're getting so high on him as well at WWE, I guess one of the reasons he was in the main event tonight is he's one of the top merchandise sellers right now, too, which is kind of surprising, really, because a lot of the merchandise he has isn't really that cool looking, I don't think.
Yeah, he had the top Black Friday merchandise this year. So.
Wow.
Yeah. That hoodie he has, I think, was sold out. So.
They need that too. They need that guy that can sell the merchandise because who was it? Cena, Daniel Bryan, and CM Punk, and Daniel Bryan and CM Punk are no longer there right now. So you need another guy, a top seller. And I know Mysterio was always up there, and again, he's gone. So that's definitely a plus that he's a top seller for sure.
But with Bray Wyatt, who I'm also really high on too, I honestly think like breaking up the Wyatts hurt him in a way. Like I don't know what you guys think about that, because there was no reason for those guys to break up, and the other two guys are always going to be, even though Luke Harper, like I mean for his size he's awesome, but those guys I think need each other, and I don't know why, like whose idea it was to break those guys apart, because you could still have the other two guys doing singles matches or tag matches or whatever the hell else, but those guys as a group, I think that they definitely lost something breaking those guys up.
I think they saw that the Shield breaking up did wonders for all three of them, so they figured maybe the same would happen with the Wyatts, I guess. It just didn't work out. For Rowan, I think it's going to be the hardest, because I think Harper just got it already. And the fact that he got a belt before Bray says a lot to me, because Bray has not won a title yet, any title, so it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both sides. I think that breaking up the Wyatts hurt Bray, but I think breaking up the Wyatts helped Harper. And I even think it helped Rowan a little bit. I mean, as much as Rowan's going to be the hardest to work with, we all knew that was going to be the case. I think they're doing well with him. It's just a matter of where they go with him.
Right. Because at least he has a character now.
Yeah, well, at least he's somebody else. But at the same time, you know what? They could have done that and still kept them all together. Right. It didn't have to be Bray and then the other two were a tag team. They could have split them, all went their own way, but still be together. And I think you're right. It did hurt Bray. I feel like he's almost seems a little bit lost right now. He doesn't seem like he's focused on like a straight path like he was before. But I know they do have big plans for Bray, within the next couple months. So I hope that kind of all pans out. And
the rumor's true, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like with Bray, they started really high with him and doing all this unique stuff, and then they kind of dropped it off. And then I feel like they need to go back and make him, more jaw-dropping things, like when he was doing the feud with Daniel Bryan and when he first came out and it was so different and new and fresh. I feel like now it's starting to be the same old thing where they're going to start doing some newer, fresher things with Bray, promo-wise.
What was the rumor with they're going to do with Bray? Anyway,
they think that he's going to be against Taker at Mania now.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Now, isn't there something, some sort of graphic that coming in January or whatever? What the hell? Like, is that going to be Undertaker? Is that what it is?
You know what? I don't know what that's going to be. I mean, every time they do that around this time, it's always Undertaker. Every year, I feel like, or Jericho, one of the two. I don't know. I don't know who that is, what that is.
I think that they could do something really cool with those guys. Like, maybe do these vignettes with Bray actually looking for Undertaker. Like old school stuff, like have him out in the desert or whatever,
Wow.
That would be something really cool if they would do that.
That would be awesome, man. I mean, I didn't even think of anything like that, but that's the kind of stuff that really I think makes a big difference. Is those little, almost like a movie. They used to do that kind of stuff all the time.
Right.
I think that would be great. Then rather than just having Taker show up and him and Bray go at it, I know I have Bray out there every week calling him out. It should be more of a story, and I think the guy to do it would be Bray because, think about how they came in. Bray had all those vignettes with him in the backwoods and all that other stuff, and remember they went to like the house and all that. I think doing something with Taker would be perfect for that.
Yeah, and it makes you care more about the match too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that eventually
you just come out and say he's the new phenom of the company, and his streak is he lost at WrestleMania, didn't he? Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, you could come up with all kinds of things about how Undertaker lost, and now he's lost.
Right. Lost soul like he is, right?
Yeah, like he's a lost soul or whatever. So
I mean, hell, that's perfect. And then maybe even say something like Bray say Undertaker came to me after he lost. He's a lost soul, and have him. They go into his Bray's the woods, and he's got Taker in there, like, doing like random things or whatever. But I think that it would be perfect to have that a story rather than just a normal Undertaker comeback at this point.
What though? I mean, the more I think about it and everything. Now that Undertaker lost the streak, why could you not just have the match at some other show? I mean, the streak is not there anymore. What's the point of him wrestling? Like, okay, it would be ideal for Bray Wyatt to break the streak.
Right.
Instead of Brock Lesnar. Because Bray Wyatt's going to be there he'll be, unless he's injured, he'll be there for the next 10 or 15 years. That could benefit him. I mean, Brock Lesnar, he's probably not going to be around after WrestleMania this year.
Yeah. Still.
Because I was thinking Bray should have fought Sting at Mania. That's what I was thinking. Like, I think that'd be a good match too. In a lot of ways.
I mean, do you think if they do not do Sting versus Undertaker and miss this opportunity that it's going to piss people off in the future? Or do you think, you know what I mean? Like, it's tough because to me, personally, I never saw a relevance between Sting and Taker, besides the fact that it was like the icons and the phenom and the loyal guys. I mean, but there was really never a story there, It wasn't like they ever had a feud back in the day or anything like that. But I know for a lot of people it was like a dream match, and it's coming to one of those things where if they don't do it now, it's probably never going to happen. So do they miss that opportunity and do different things, or do they take advantage of it now?
If it were me, I would probably do like a tag match, maybe like Taker and Sting together against maybe like Bray and Triple H or something like that, because Taker and Sting in a match right now at their age, it's going to be terrible.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's probably why you're not going to see it, is the match is not going to be very good.
Right.
And I think they're going to do Triple H and Sting at Mania. I don't even know if that match will be good, but it's probably better. It's probably got a better shot of actually being a decent match than Taker and Sting. I don't know how they're going to make us care about that match.
with Taker and Sting, I think what the problem comes to is who wins that match. You know what I mean? Like, do you have Sting's first and only match him lose, or do you have Taker come back to lose again? So that was always my issue with the match, was who goes over, you know?
Unless it's just a retirement match and that's their last match for both of them, and that's just, doesn't matter who wins or loses.
You know what you could do, though, too? I mean, you could have the Sting Triple H match set up the Sting Undertaker match for the next year. Maybe you could have a reason why those guys would want to. Maybe Taker could cost him the match or something like that.
And what's next year? Where's this year?
It's in California, and then 32 is in Dallas, so it's in Texas.
I mean, Dallas.
Is it in Texas?
Yeah, 32, yeah.
That'd be huge.
Hall of Fame Undertaker right there. I think he's going to be...
At some point, though, Undertaker's going to have to quit wrestling. I mean, I actually heard he wasn't going to wrestle this year.
Yeah, I heard that too, and then recently it just started coming up with the Bray thing. And
because supposedly he's training people at NXT, supposedly, like, every once in a while, so...
Right. I just don't think, like, especially after the Lesnar-Undertaker match, which sucked last year, I thought that match was awful. Like, I don't know if he just... I don't think those guys were good chemistry together. I think they need to be, if he's going to have another match, they need to be really careful with who they put him with. Don't put him with anybody that can't actually hold their own with him in the ring, or improve, make improvements, like a CM Punk or somebody like that,
Well, that's why I think the storyline, like you said, having an in-depth story with Bray and using a lot of mind games will help, because I think they could utilize that in the match. Then when it's him and Brock, it's basically like you gotta go. It's basically like, what else do you do? Where if it's him and Bray, maybe they can do a lot of mind games type things where they're not really having to just work for the next 30 minutes straight. So I mean that might be the best bet for him.
Right. But anyway, let's get back to the show.
Yeah.
Dean Ambrose, Bray Wyatt TLC match. I thought it was an awesome match. Just great, crazy, stunts and spots and stuff like that. But the ending was kind of strange. It was like something right out of like, Papa Shango, or, I mean, nothing like, voodoo-ish, but just that goofy, like, I've disconnected I don't know how many TVs and monitors and stuff over the years, just, moving or whatever else. I don't remember ever seeing like a Roman candle spark out of a monitor before. I don't know about you guys.
No, I never did, but
I've never seen that. Never experienced that before.
I didn't mind
HDMI cable.
I didn't mind the ending because it was different. It was something unique, at least. I feel like back in the day we saw more stuff like that than we do now, so that's why I kind of was like, you know what, I was fine with that, because as long as they do something with it, as long as it leads into something else.
I don't know, it kind of made Ambrose look stupid in a way. I kind of felt like he booked him like an idiot. That's just me. Other than that, I love the match. It's just that the ending was very lame, in my opinion.
I kind of hope, though, like Garrett was saying in the chat earlier, that they give him those white contact lens like they did Jake the Snake back in the day. And
God, that would be great, man.
Blindfold match. Another one.
Even if he just had one, it's just it's creepy looking. It's cool looking, and have him do that for a month or so. I mean, I just think it would add to his character. It would add to the story. And, you can probably get one more match out of those two guys because of it.
The one thing, though, back in the day with, the model and Jake the Snake feud and all that, like, okay, I was always wondering as a kid, how did Jake the Snake's eye get better? Like, it was his eyeball was completely gone. Yeah. I was like, what did he do? Did he get like a replacement or something?
Also water in the eye.
Yeah, I don't know. I never thought about it, actually. But
he just washed it out.
Yeah, he just showed up at WrestleMania and his eyes were fine.
He trained his eyes.
And they had that awesome blindfold match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, that he screwed up when he put his hand in the damn thing like an idiot.
Yeah.
See his fingers? Dummy.
But yeah, I mean, this match, it was a fun match aside from, I thought the ending was kind of silly. in a way.
Yeah.
But hey, it's I guess an original. You haven't seen anything like that in a while. But yeah, I mean they had some crazy spots with these huge ass ladders. Like there was one that was probably about what 12 feet high or something like that. And I think JBL said he was 30 feet in the air or something like what? It's high. It's not that high,
On top of the 300-pound steps.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta love how they exaggerate stuff in wrestling sometimes, but it was overall, it was not a great show, and it was not a horrible show. It was just kind of, to me, it was kind of in the middle.
It was a sandwich with bad meat in the middle.
Yeah, like I think there was 3 matches that were good, and then the rest were kind of just throwaways.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, but fortunately for us and other wrestling fans, like January is when it starts getting really good. So Royal Rumble's probably my favorite. Well, that and WrestleMania, my 2 favorite shows of the year. I always look forward to those shows, and basically up until Mania from right now, usually really good. I'm wondering what they're going to do on Raw tomorrow to start to promote the Rumble. Not really looking forward to Lesnar and Cena again, but in a way, I do kind of hope Cena wins that belt back.
I think he has to at this point. I think it's the Lesnar experiment has failed. I think Cena and Reigns at WrestleMania would be a good match. To be honest, I think it would be a very good match.
I'd rather see that than Brock and Reigns.
I think Cena putting over Reigns would be more at the end than Lesnar putting over Reigns. To be honest with you.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see. I think we may get some surprises in the Rumble too. Like I was saying, I don't think the Daniel Bryan thing is too far from happening, to be honest. I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong.
He's probably better than they say he is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he never did have that other surgery like he was talking about.
That's the thing, they're so quiet about everything. Nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah, last I heard, he didn't have that surgery. So that might be telling me that, like, maybe his arm's getting better finally or whatever.
He was backstage tonight, too.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe they'll pull that out of their hat and have him win the Rumble. Who knows? I think that they should have had him on TV a lot more over the last 4 or 5 months than they've had him, though.
Mm-hmm.
They probably wanted to make his return special. I think that's why. Like a big pop when he returns.
Yeah, I just wonder how popular he'll be, though, when he comes back. I mean, because it has been a while.
Yeah, I mean, when he left, he was white hot, up until Mania, and then, he didn't have the greatest run with that title for what he had it for.
Yeah, I only had it really for, what, a month or something?
Yeah, I mean, that match with Kane was good, I thought, for what it was, but again, it was like, he jumped right into that feud with Kane, which was just made no sense at all, and I feel like that took him down. And then, like, the night after, I think was his, like, last appearance, was that thing where Kane was in his car and he couldn't figure out how to start it. Like, right there, like, that was, like, the beginning of the end for Daniel Bryan's gimmick, for his title run. And so the injury couldn't have came at a better time, but unfortunately the injury lasted a lot longer than I wish it had. So
I'm sure, yeah, for everyone involved it lasted, because how long has it been? I mean, he was out in May, right?
Yeah, May. Yeah.
So, wow.
And Punk leaving, too, also, I think messed a lot of plans up as well. So they had a rough year.
Yeah, although I think if Punk didn't leave, I don't know if we would have ever seen that Mania match with Bryan winning the title.
Right.
True, yeah.
So, anyway, though, that is it for the TLC show. We were going to talk about the NXT our Evolution show from this. We definitely have to talk about this because we don't really talk about NXT as much as we should on here. If I was around, I would have definitely wanted to do a post show on Thursday night, but I just wasn't around to do it. I didn't get to see most of the show until Friday, but overall, I mean, I don't know if you guys want to go through all the matches on here, but just, you know what it reminds me of is the old ECW shows in a way. I mean, even though it's a different sort of product, but just the fan involvement and how the fans really make a lot of the characters too. Like, I don't know if you guys agree. Like, they kind of it just makes it fun. Like you're like, oh man, I want to be there live and see it, you know.
Yeah, it sure does. Unfortunately, what bothers me is I feel like when the NXT guys do show their face on Raw or whatever, the reaction isn't even close to what it is on NXT, which makes me think that a lot of these people either aren't watching NXT or don't have the network. Because, you know, if I saw an NXT guy show his face on Raw, I know that I would, you know, get excited. And I feel like you don't really see that as much. But the fan involvement on that show, and because it's such a smaller venue, I feel like it makes everybody so much more important. And you can tell those guys are going out there and giving 100% every time. And that's like ECW as well.
Right.
Do you think, though, that NXT is something that eventually they could market as a separate, you know, touring company?
I do, as long as it doesn't change what it's doing. You know, like that's the problem. Like especially with, you know, when WWE took over ECW, I mean they changed it. They changed what made it special, and you know, the only difference between NXT really and the WWE is you would think, why do these guys want to go to Raw if NXT is so much better? It's the paychecks. I mean, it's not the wrestling itself. The wrestling itself is, and the respect is down at NXT, but the pay is what the difference is, you know, and that's unfortunate because I know the guys in the back, like you were just saying, is, you know, basically looking at these pay-per-views and being like, oh my God, they just outdid us in every aspect, and by the fans' eyes, they outdid us, and, you know, but we're the ones making all the money, so what's holding us back? And there's too many rules up there, I think. And I think there's too much wrestling for them weekly that they can't go out and do all that stuff because they need to be ready to go every day of the week.
Right. I was reading somewhere that AAA said that they are going to plan on touring, I guess, around the state of Florida to kind of start kind of like house show circus around there, which I think is a very interesting move, because I think they want to take the pay-per-views out of that arena and then put it somewhere else and kind of make it more special.
I think, yeah, on a limited scale, they could do touring, like similar to ECW, really, how they did it. Like maybe a weekend go up. I mean, if they wanted to go up to the old ECW arena and shoot like a month worth of shows up there, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that would work, or just, you know, maybe go out California and shoot some shows. I think that it's an interesting concept, and I think that they're definitely. It seems like that they're thinking about doing that, because a lot of these new guys, when they bring them in, they already have the merchandise out there. Like Finn Balor already has a T-shirt with that character that he, you know, he was. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he names the characters or what, but I mean, you know, the face paint, the body paint, and all that. They already had a T-shirt for that. So it seems like they're trying to market it almost as a different entity in a way,
Right.
which is smart. Really.
It's working this way, and you know, as long as they don't go on tour and they become their own thing, and you know, they come off the network and they have a TV show every week on TV, and then all of a sudden, like 5 of them show up on Raw, and it's like an invasion, and you know, they're all just called NXT, and it's like a group of 5 of them. Like, they need to keep the gimmicks. You know, if they're gonna bring a guy up to the show, he needs to keep his gimmick, not show up and be like, oh, it's NXT, and have 5 guys with no gimmicks all of a sudden, like they did before. You know, like
Nexus, yeah.
The Nexus, and then when they even did the alliance with ECW, like everybody just seemed like a big mesh. Like nobody was an individual anymore. You know, and that's where I think that they've got to be very careful with what they do, because these guys are so over. You know, they can't screw with the format that's working.
But there's so many things that worked on this show, and we can go through them. I mean, Kevin Steen debuted as Kevin Owens, and pretty much it was just a total squash. Although there was one spot in this where the guy, what was the guy's name?
CJ Parker.
Yeah. He just did and broke Kevin Owens' nose. It was disgusting to look at. Like, I don't know, was that like
Did you see the picture afterwards that Parker posted that his hand was actually cut around the palm?
His hand was all cut open from it. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, how would that was just, I don't know, it almost looked like he meant to do that, but
it made the match for me. I thought that was really the highlight of the match for me. It's like it made it more special than it already was. The blood and all that. It made him look more like a badass, in my opinion. I thought it worked.
Yeah, it definitely worked for his character, and he come out there at the end of the main event too, and still bleeding everywhere.
Yeah, so, all over everybody.
Yeah,
he packed in work this time.
But yeah, I agree. I think that debut for him was, you see a lot of debuts. We saw Hideo Itami's debut, Balor's debut on the regular show, and I think that this debut made him a bigger star than both of those guys. I think. Like it pushed.
See, because he's unique talent in a way. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they use him, because a lot of his, I don't know a whole lot about him, but I know a lot of the offense that he does is kind of dangerous. A lot of the independent stuff that he was kind of doing. So I don't know if they're going to let him do all that shit.
Well, they're not going to let him do the package power driver, I'm sure. They're going to take that away from him.
I wish they would, but it's way too risky. That was a...
Right.
I'm surprised they did that angle at the end with Zayn. I thought that was like, wow, like they actually went there and...
Yeah, that was rough looking too.
Yeah, that could have hurt him bad.
Right.
Yeah, and Kevin Owens, he moves around very quickly for a guy his size, which makes him unique. I remember watching him back in Ring of Honor for a long time, and I used to always think he was cool, but I never thought in a million years that he would ever make it to this level. Like, I just felt like, he didn't have a good look. Like, he was heavy. He wore, like, a T-shirt. I'm like, he would have worked in ECW, but I never thought he would have got that opportunity he has. But, he slimmed down a little bit, and right now I feel like it's working. It's working.
Well, you got guys like Bray Wyatt. I mean, if they can come up with, I don't know if that's the gimmick they're going to bring him up with, just the Kevin Owens gimmick, but if they can come up with something creative for him, gimmick-wise, there's no reason he couldn't, be successful there. Because look at Bray Wyatt. I mean, he's not really the most athletic guy either, but he's definitely got a spot. So.
Oh yeah.
It could kind of make him like a Brock Lesnar type of wrestler, I guess. He's not as big as Brock, but he can kind of be like that badass that will go in the ring and kill you. I mean, it's not too hard.
Yeah. My only problem is I feel like NXT has a couple guys that are like in that same gimmick, so it's gonna hurt somebody. Like that Bull Dempsey, I feel like his gimmick is exactly like what Steen's is, and I think it's just gonna. I don't care about Bull Dempsey at all, but
no,
like
the funniest thing I saw though was like it was a show a couple weeks ago. He come out there and somebody had like a sign that said "Tubby Rhino" or something, and I was like, "Holy shit, that is fucking awesome!" Because that's exactly like he looks exactly like a Tubby Rhino.
Yeah, still, I don't know. Like again, I think they marketed him too much like a Steen. Like when I first saw him, I'm like, oh, they should have gave Steen that gimmick, And then I don't know where Bull goes now from here. I feel like Steen's that guy that they tried to make Bull, and I don't know what.
It's funny because he's third compared to Steen and Baron Corbin. I think Baron Corbin has more presence and charisma than he does.
Well, I want to get into him when we get there, but yeah, I agree.
Next match on the show though was the Lucha Dragons versus the Vaudevillains for the tag team titles. And the Vaudevillains, man, like, I just love that gimmick. And it reminds me of, it's another one that for some reason it reminds me of something that could have been an ECW back in the day, too. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of goofy, but, like, yeah, I mean, it's fun,
Yeah, I think the gimmick works for sure. I think it would work on the main roster. I don't see them being superstars, with that gimmick. I see it more of a comedy act in the long run. The Lucha Dragons, I like Kalisto. Sin Cara is going to be gone soon. I mean, he doesn't even look like he's another one who doesn't even look like he wants to be there. Like, when they're doing the Lucha thing, I mean,
it's terrible.
In it, like, he just seems out of place, man, and it sucks because I think he's just waiting for his contract to be done because he will not get re-signed, I guarantee it. Kalisto will be a singles wrestler, and I think he will be a star on the WWE. I think he's going to be that Rey Mysterio. I think that's where he's going to go. He's going to sell a ton of merchandise.
What's the history with him, though? I don't really know. Was he a legit luchador, or was he just like some
He's from Chicago. He used to work for Dragon Gate.
Okay. Because, he is really good. Like, as far as high-flying moves and just crazy. Yeah, I think they definitely have a spot for him.
Yeah, he can just promo and all that stuff. He's good.
They're just buying time with him and Sin Cara. This match, it was okay. I really don't care too much about these guys. Like I said, Vaudevillains, I think, have a spot in the future as a comedy team. And I think Kalisto is definitely going to be a big name. As far as is he going to be world champion? Probably not, but I think he's going to be someone that's going to sell them a lot of merchandise and be pretty high up on the card, top, mid-carder or whatever. But, that was my thought on this.
They should have Rey Mysterio mentor him. I think that will really push him to that point where he's like, oh, this is the next guy.
Yeah, because they really screwed up with Sin Cara. I feel like their plan was to have him be the next Rey Mysterio, and it just, I know a lot of it was Sin Cara's fault, but
the first one, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know. It just didn't work, and they got to do something to make this work. And I think this guy's so talented that it's going to be fine.
Yeah, I think it's okay if they want to change the gimmick up a little bit and maybe tell people that he's just a mask. I mean, he doesn't have to be from Mexico. You could change him up, make him a little different. But I think they kind of are wanting somebody billed as being from Mexico just for that audience. But
they definitely do, right?
If he's actually American, though, I mean, let him talk or something if he can cut an interview. Got a promo.
It's funny because Sin Cara Hunico is also American. He's from California, so neither one of them is really Mexican. We're more in Mexico. So.
Well, he's closer than Kalisto, though, if he's from Chicago.
Right.
So. Yeah, but you know what, though? I mean, the Lucha Dragons, for what it is, I mean, I guess they're waiting on Sin Cara to, like you were saying, the contract to, to end with him. But it works for what it is, I think. I mean, it's the crowd's into it. And I think that's the thing that works within NXT is you've got the crowd into it, so it makes it seem more like, good, I guess. I mean, it's good anyway, but the crowd, having a good crowd behind it,
enjoyable.
Makes it.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, Baron Corbin, all of his matches are squash matches. How big is he big enough to actually do this sort of gimmick in WWE? I mean, I don't know how exact. I know he's tall, but he's kind of like skinny, right?
Yeah, I don't know how tall he really is, but I actually think that there's something there with him. I think that there's some long-term stuff with him. He's super green now, but I think in the long run he has something special. I mean, I'm not going to go out on the limb and say, hey, he's going to be the next Undertaker, but think about Undertaker, when he first started. I mean, he was still pretty green. I mean, he was all right. He had worked before, but I think this kid has something special for the long haul. I just think he just needs time to kind of establish it.
This is the guy I feel Roman Reigns should be.
Right.
The guy who just comes out there and kills people. And not talk, just gets in the ring, kills the guy, and just leaves.
Right.
It has like a presence about him. That's what I think Roman Reigns should be. And he's not that guy.
Right, yeah, I agree.
See, match after that, Finn Balor and Hideo Itami versus The Ascension. Now this, a lot of people were talking about the pre-match, I don't know what you would call it, with Finn Balor, who has done this in, what was he, in New Japan?
New Japan, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like this body paint. He sometimes has these face masks he puts on or whatever else. And when I was watching this, I was like, I mean, odds are he put most of this just together himself. And it almost seemed like it was like a WrestleMania entrance in a way. With limited money and whatever, they had the fog machines and stuff like that. I think that entrance alone, as good as the guy is in the ring, which, I mean, he's one of the best, I think, and I think
Yeah.
I've heard many people say he's probably one of the best wrestlers in the world.
Mhm.
I think that entrance probably got him more interest backstage than anything he could ever do in the ring. And I think that he's probably not going to last in NXT. He's probably going to go up to WWE probably right after WrestleMania.
From what I read, he said that he signed the contract for NXT, but he's not going to be there long. That was the deal. He'll be there for a little while and then go right up to the main roster. Yeah, he's ready for it. I think Vince will love that whole entrance deal. That's the thing he loves. And the fact that the guy is so good in the ring, he'll be a world champion real quick, I think. I don't think he's going to really... They can't screw it up. I hope they don't screw it up, but I don't think they can, really.
I mean, he's good. He is an it guy. You know, I don't know how tall he is in comparison to the WWE talent. I don't know if he's like a Dolph Ziggler size. I'm not sure. He's got a good build. He's got a good look. He could be the face of the company. I think as long as they don't overutilize that body paint thing, if they can, you know, keep him normal and then have him do that for special events, because that will wear really thin, I believe. And I think he's not, you know, it's not like he's an ugly guy where you have to be like, oh, he needs paint to look cool, but he's fine as he is. His music is awesome. His entrance is awesome. Even with the paint, without the paint, his theme, you know, it fits him perfectly. I think his only downfall right now is his mic work. But I haven't seen enough of it in NXT to know how good or bad it really is. But he's their it guy right now, I think. Aside from Zayn, I believe he's the guy.
Yeah, of all the guys in the match, and the Ascension I'm thinking they're on their way like really soon, like probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And maybe all the guys on the show. I mean, I think Sami Zayn and Finn Balor are the two
ready.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely ready. And but getting back to this match though, I thought that these guys had a really good match, and you know, I think the Ascension was pretty much just stomping the shit out of Hideo Itami most of the time, and that led to you know, and the crowd loved Finn Balor too. I mean, they were like really hot for him, and you know, I thought they had a really good match.
Yeah, and remember, Finn Balor has only been in NXT for like 3 weeks as far as TV wise. So the fact that they were behind him so much, you know, and him being brand new is pretty, you know, interesting, you know, especially because Hideo has been there now for probably like a couple months, and I feel like he was just so overshadowed. I feel disappointed in Kenta since he's debuted. I don't know if they don't know what to do with him. Even at the end of the match when they won, there was a big spotlight on Balor the whole time, and Itami was in like darkness. Like it almost like he didn't matter at all, and I don't know whose fault.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a good move to put those two together. You know, because you can clearly see that one guy is ready and the other guy is not. I mean, at least for WWE, because
it's HBK and Mario Jannetty all over again.
Well, Freddie, did you follow them at all? I mean, I did a little bit. Were they a team together at the Bullet Club? Were they in the Bullet Club at the same time at any point?
I think they teamed up every now and then. I don't remember too much because I haven't recently been watching Japanese wrestling. I stopped watching it a while ago, but I've seen like a couple of matches with David and Kenta. They're definitely friends though. They knew each other back in Japan.
Because in Japan there's a faction called the Bullet Club, and I know they both were part of it. I just don't know if they were part of it at the same time.
I think they were. Yeah, I think they were. But yeah, I agree about Kenta. For me, I think he's better fit as a heel at the moment. I think that's what he needs. Because he's been booked terribly, I think, in my opinion.
Well, is it the language barrier? Does he not have that charisma in the United States?
I think he's trying to adjust to the style of the WWE. I think it is, because he was in Japan. He's great. You see his matches; they're great. But I think they kind of like limit his moveset, I think, in a lot of ways. Because most of the stuff he does is kicks. I mean, that's kind of like, okay, anybody could do kicks. So, because the GTS spot was like the highlight of his career in NXT so far.
So, well, you see the people go nuts when he put him up there, and then they dropped him or whatever. But at this point, they should just let him do it, because it's gonna get a pop, or it's gonna get of people being excited, or it's gonna get a boo for people being like.
You figure Punk stole his GTS, and then Bryan stole his running knee. That was also his as well. So he's kind of stifled in what he can do. I think that's the issue with him right now.
I think before Balor gets called up to the roster, they should flip. Now that Ascension's gone, they should flip Hideo heel and have them two feud. And I think that would help them both get over if they can work together. Like, I think that would get them both over.
I just don't know what the end result is for Kenta. I mean,
I don't know either.
Like, I just don't see how that. I just don't see how he's going to work in WWE at all.
Indeed, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
He could be the new Kai later.
Kai 2.0, yeah, with Funaki.
Yeah. Let's see. Charlotte versus Sasha Banks. And I was surprised at this match, actually. Like, I was totally getting ready to just, fast forward through this one. But both of these, like, it's weird because NXT actually has even great women's match. And both of these ladies are really, I mean, I was shocked. I got to say, I didn't really follow Charlotte that much for the amount of, I don't think she's been training for, a couple years?
2 years.
A year, I think, maybe. I mean, not a long time.
Man, she is really freaking good.
She's a natural. She's a flair.
And Sasha Banks is like, I didn't know she was that good either.
That was her best match, Sasha Banks, because she's never really been given the opportunity to really go out and wrestle someone like Charlotte. So for me, she was the highlight of the match, because I didn't think she could wrestle that great, and she did an excellent job. I think she's ready too. I think she's ready to be called up too. I think, because she got the character and everything. I think she's ready.
Right. Yeah, I do too. Sasha Banks actually is from around my area, so I've known her for a while as far as her work. Like, she would do independence around me, like, for a long time. And I remember when she got called up, it was kind of a big deal around my area. Like, oh, did you hear her? I think her name was Mercedes at the time, but so yeah, she's definitely a good worker, and I think she's come a long way. She's good on the mic, she's good at character, and she's good in the ring. I mean, you showed it at that event. The one thing about NXT, every pay-per-view that they had, or every special event they had, their women's match was one of the top matches on that card. And
I agree.
Like you said, Charlotte, she could probably be the best woman wrestler they have right now.
I think if AJ leaves, put Charlotte right in that spot. Make her the center of that division.
She's ready. I think Charlotte and Paige should be the top two people of that women's division going forward. And they should start
something with Emma. Yeah.
Yeah, start pushing Emma up and have Natalya up there. But Natalya at this point is someone who's just going to help other people, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I mean, because it seems like once the Divas come up to Raw or whatever, they just are told, no, you don't have to work anymore. It's weird because it's like they're two different.
How long was that match with Charlotte and Sasha? That was probably a good 15 minutes
15,
maybe.
Oh yeah,
like 15 minutes.
And they do that every event.
It was a 2-hour show, and there was only a handful of matches on there.
Right.
So,
Baron Corbin was like 15 seconds. So
yeah, Baron Corbin don't even count.
Right.
You would think
or the Kevin Owens CJ Parker match is brief too.
With Raw being 3 hours, don't you think they will have longer women's matches?
Yeah, instead we get Bunny.
Right. It's like 10 minutes. Just give them 10 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. And seriously though, Raw is 3 hours long. Why couldn't they do? And maybe they will. We'll look on Raw. Do like a NXT rewind segment or something. Talk about some of the stuff that was on NXT.
If they want to promote that network, that's the stuff they need to show. For real.
Or do like NXT maybe once a month at the 8 to 9 o'clock slot or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe bring up a couple NXT guys and have them in a match every once in a while and say, hey, if you like this, check out NXT on Thursday nights.
put the title on pay-per-view or something, like a regular, like Royal Rumble, NXT World Title or something. I don't know.
Did you guys notice that they're selling the replica NXT belts now on WWE Shop?
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Much better title than their actual World Heavyweight Championship. So.
So. Anyway, main event.
Yeah, great women's match.
Yeah, it was an awesome match. Yeah, Charlotte, of course, held on to the belt, I think. But yeah, world title match. And see, the thing is about this, too, that I wanted to mention for the NXT title, I don't know if they call it the world title or whatever, but the build to this match was better than anything that they've done on WWE in a long time. And it worked, man. I mean, everybody wanted to see this match. You know, it's simple. It was a simple storyline that they were doing between these two guys. But it worked.
It was even built up even before the feud. I think since Sami Zayn's been there, he's been this underdog who's been scratching to get that title. I think it's been building, and people were waiting for it to happen. I think that's why people were so excited about it.
And he was always stealing the show at all the special events. It was him and Cesaro for a while, and then they had a big feud, and 2 out of 3 falls matches with him. You know, so I think it was a long time coming, and people knew he was stealing the show at every event, but was never getting that shot.
Right. And it seems like they're finally, of course, he won the match. The match was amazing. Like, of course, everyone knew it was going to be. Those two guys just worked so well together, Adrian Neville and Sami Zayn. And it's just different. It's different types of wrestlers too. Than nothing you really see on Raw or SmackDown or anything like that. Just very high pace, just nonstop match.
Yeah, it was just smartly booked. That's all you need. You know, it's not too hard.
Less is more when it comes to things like that.
Yeah.
You know. So, I mean, I agree. I think the match was great. I feel like every NXT pay-per-view, it just gets better and better, and it's crazy that it keeps outdoing itself like that. And, you know, especially because they have, if you look at the first event they did probably like a year ago, and now is a lot of different talent out there, you know, and it's still great.
Yeah.
And the crowd made that even better. It was so into that match. It was just like it felt like you were there with them. That's how good it was.
Yeah, I think the crowd was so behind Sami Zayn too, and they've got something really, really special with him, and I think that they realize that, and they need to be really careful with how they debut him whenever they do debut him. And I know it'll probably be a little while from now, but I think that they've got somebody that could almost come in and instantly be a main event guy with him, and just the character he has, and keep the same character, just different. He just seems like a very likable guy too, just a good babyface character, you know. And
got that Daniel Bryan type of like to him, where he's organically, people are going to be drawn to him, and he doesn't have to be overly a face for people to really get behind him.
He reminds me of Ricky Steamboat in a lot of ways.
That's a good comparison.
And just some of the emotion that he had in the match too, especially when he won the title. Like he reminds me a lot in that way of Shawn Michaels. You know, of just, you know, his emotion in the ring and how much, you know, you believe that he believes.
I think he has the best facial expressions of any wrestler in that company right now. Because every time he wins or loses, his facial just says it all. Like what he's thinking. I think that's what Vince wants. I think people who are very expressive in their face, and that's who he is. I think he has the complete package. I think this guy is ready to go. Maybe within a year, he'll have the IC title. Maybe even be world champion. Who knows? I don't know. I think he's ready.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree in the sense that they've got to be very careful how they debut this guy. That could make or break him, especially if, you know, a lot of the fans don't know who he is yet. Hopefully more of them do, and those chants that he has, and that might take over and get people just to get behind him, because a lot of times people just think it's fun chanting to do, and that's just going to get them behind him right away. What do you do with him? Does he come in and go after? Is he the guy to beat Rusev? Unfortunately, I wish Cesaro, we talk about him all the time, was pushed as a bigger person in the company, because having him come in and feud with Cesaro, some of their matches they had, I mean, you could go instant star with some of the stuff that they can do together. But, you bring him in and feud with Cesaro, it might be great matches, but if Cesaro's not a top contender, it doesn't do anything for Sammy. So,
Right.
There's still, the opportunities are there, but I just don't know what you do with someone like that. You don't bring him in and have him fight Kane. You don't do that. So
I think him and Seth Rollins would be amazing.
Yeah, see, that would be another one too, for sure.
WWE is just really bad for bringing somebody in and just throwing them out there, and they can't do that with him.
Right.
It's just, I mean, he's just one of those guys, and I think Finn Balor's the same way. You got to really have a program for those guys ready when you debut them. Whether or not you have Sami Zayn just go after Seth Rollins or whatever you do, you got to have something ready for those guys, a program ready for those guys. Because I think both of those guys, and especially Sami Zayn, he's one of those guys that the crowd is going to get behind him if they have a reason to, because he's just so much fun to watch and does so many crazy things in the ring. He's just original. His character is just original. There's nobody like him.
Mm-hmm.
He can cut great promos, and he has a good look. So, yeah, I think he's ready to go. I think next year, he'll probably be called up.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I love the show, and I agree with Garrett. I think that the NXT shows, they keep finding a way to outdo themselves. And I'm guessing the next big one will be right before WrestleMania. And we'll probably see Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in that one.
Yeah, finally, yeah. I'm excited about that for sure.
So I mean that brings up the end of the match, right? I mean, I was actually shocked when I was watching it, because when they did that whole thing where they did the big celebration with Sami. I mean, even Pat Patterson was out there. Kevin Owens came out, and not only are they good friends and they've teamed in the past, but in Ring of Honor, they had one of the biggest rivalries ever in Ring of Honor. I remember Sammy left for a while, came back, and they had I don't know if you remember, Steen opened a package and it was Zayn's mask that he used to wear, and he was, oh my God, he's coming back. And their rivalry was just so big in that company that I'm glad to see them transition it over to here, because people who did follow them, I think it's going to make this match more important. I kind of was oh man, this is a perfect time for them to start feuding. And then when I saw them hugging, I'm they're not going to feud right away. And it actually it was a swerve on me. I didn't expect the swerve at the end.
I kind of figured something was going to happen because the celebration lasted way too damn long. I was like, something's fucking up here. And it's the same way, I was just watching the Raw where this happened in 93, 94, where Crush turned on the Macho Man. Happened the exact same way.
Right.
And I was like, that's the Macho. He's turning on the Macho Man the exact same way. So I wasn't that surprised. I mean, I was thinking.
But what I liked about it was that when they were walking out, the logo was already up on the pay-per-view, so you figured, it's going to end right there. And then the attack happened right after the logo, which I thought was very clever. And I was like, oh, okay. A lot of people I know actually stopped watching the show at that point when the logo came up. I figured the show was over. And totally missed the after attack, so it worked.
I mean, we got Steen right up there. It's reliving that feud. And did you see Triple H tweeted right afterwards, something about, something about brass rings or something?
Brass rings, yeah. He must have brass rings, right?
I mean, it's nice that he's that focused on NXT, that he sees that, because, it's going to show, well, this is working. What's where's the problem with everybody else up on the main roster? I don't know.
But I think that's why Bray and the Shield are so protected. I think Triple H has a lot to do with that. Because I think those are his children in a lot of ways.
Right. And I know he's really, really big on Paige, and I know that Vince is really, really big on AJ. So if AJ is gone, then hopefully, you see Paige start to crawl back up that ladder and be the top diva, until Charlotte gets called up. But I don't know. I think it was good. I think any wrestling fan out there should definitely check it out for sure. And as far as TLC, check out the first match and.
The last match.
Yeah, the NXT show was like, there's top to bottom. It was a great 2-hour show. And WWE, I honestly think that show, the NXT show, was so good that whoever put that show together, they're probably going to they're getting a promotion soon. I think that they're going to start moving some more of those people over to Raw, because that show. That woke some people up, I think. I hope, at least.
Yeah.
So we will see tomorrow if they make any changes. But I think a lot of it is, too, though, is it's just 2 hours long.
Have you watched the other specials that they had, Wes? Did you watch all the old ones?
Yeah.
Because if you haven't, yeah, I definitely recommend watching them all, because they're all killer.
I just hit mute.
Even the weekly show is great, too.
Which one?
I've been watching the weekly show.
Yeah, I watched that. Follow that Charlotte Natalia match was great on the last event that they did. That was a great one. Even the one with Charlotte and Bayley was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just they've got a lot of talented females down there. Like I think even Bayley's ready to go. I think she's so over as a face for girls that I think she would be a great. She'd sell a lot of merch to little kids.
I think Alexa Bliss is also very good.
Oh yeah, she hasn't really, they haven't really got her. I think she'll be the next one that's starting to move up once somebody gets out of, once Charlotte goes or whatever. I think
Becky Lynch. I think
Becky Lynch is, Becky Lynch looks good. She's good in the ring, but that voice, man, I can't. She sounds like Sheamus. It's such a turnoff, man.
I'm trying to make her like Lita. I think in a lot of ways, if you notice.
Lita, but she talks like Sheamus. It's not good.
Now, Adrian Neville, though, do you think he's coming up? I mean, it sure seemed that way.
I think he is. I just, again, dude, I don't know what you're going to do with him. I don't know
He'll be in the Rumble. He'll be in the Rumble, I think.
He might be that spot guy from now on, like the next Shelton and Kofi that's going to do all this crazy stuff every year.
Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, the show's great. I'm looking forward to the other shows. I'm guessing the next one will probably be in February or something, somewhere around that time.
Probably March.
February, March, around that time period should be. But, yeah, shit, it's almost 1:30. I just noticed.
I have the replay on right now on my TV for TLC, and it's already on the main event. I'm like, oh, my God, we're still on it.
Wow. And we still have it looks like 16 people watching live, so that's not too bad at 1:30.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
So we will be back the next pay-per-view, and it actually makes, I think this would make our 1-year anniversary. We started with Royal Rumble last year, so I think Jason is going to be joining us. Hopefully, again, he hasn't been on here in a while. He said he'd join us for the Rumble. And that's always a fun show. It's one of my favorites, so definitely looking forward to that. I think it's the 25th of January, so we'll be on there for that. And we should try to do some sort of other show. I don't know. We always say that, but we never do for some reason. But
just let me know, man, what you want to do. Because, this was it for December. I feel like we just did one like 2-3 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. So we have a while. It's actually quite a while till the Rumble, right?
Yeah, it's like 6 weeks.
Right. So we'll probably do something else. But if not, have a good Christmas or holidays, whatever. Happy holidays.
Yeah, you gotta say happy holidays now because people get pissed off at you.
Yeah, I can't say Christmas no more.
I don't believe in Christ. I'm a heathen. So, anyway, guys, I guess we will see you in a few weeks, and if I don't talk to you, and I'm sure I'll talk to you online, but, Merry Christmas and all that, happy horse shit, Happy New Year, whatever.
Yeah.
And we will see everybody else at the Royal Rumble.
Yes, very excited.
Royal Rumble! Like McMahon used to say back in the day. See you guys.
Take care. Thank you guys for listening.